I don't really do rant videos, but this is a collection of my 10 most irritating things that other drivers do. So if you are an other driver, I would be really grateful if you could just pay attention to the things that really annoy me. And unless you're feeling particularly belligerent and want to annoy me, these are habits that really do need to be adjusted and changed. But if I'm honest, I've probably done some of these things myself over the years. I'd be really curious to know what your thoughts are on your pet hates when you're driving in the comments. So fire up the comments and let me know what things really wind you up. So one thing that really annoys me is tailgaters. That's where you're driving along and you've got someone tailgating you. It feels like they're inches away from the rear of your car. And if they were a good driver, you probably wouldn't mind so much. But these idiots are generally on their phone, they're distracted, they're not keeping a proper lookout. And the minute you have to take evasive action, they're going to plough right into the back of you. So it leaves you with no option but to adjust your driving style to slow up and allow a little bit of extra space for manoeuvre should something untoward happen, just because you've got an idiot sitting on your boot. It might also be someone that's just watched our video on hypermiling and they didn't bother to heed the caution that tailgating is not very safe to do and are doing that to maximise their fuel economy. So another thing is failing to indicate. The turn signals on a car are critical. Other drivers on the road are not psychic, they're not telepathic, they need to know what your intention is. If you're just sitting there in the middle of the road, other drivers do not have a clue whether you're going to be turning left or turning right, and you're probably also not getting opportunities to move on to the junction that you want just because you're not clearly indicating that to other motorists. So please use those turn signals. They are there for a reason. They give other drivers a little bit of notice as to what your intentions are, and it can actually help you to make swifter progress if they're aware of what you're planning to do and they can make adjustments to allow you to do it. Got a small favour to ask, please could you just drop us a like? I know that in this video I'm just ranting about things that annoy me, but do let me know in the comments the things that annoy you. And you never know, if there's a pattern emerging, I might even make a specific video dedicated to some of these specific annoyances and looking at ways that maybe we can all help to eradicate it from our roads. So I'm sure we've all been there. You're driving along a main road, it's fairly empty, it's just really you on the road, and there's a car at a junction just waiting to pull out, and they pull out just in front of you, and then to really rub it in, they drive really slowly, like they've just not seen you, or they're completely oblivious to the world around them. It brings me also to the cautious driver. Now, there's nothing wrong in being cautious when you're driving a car. In fact, it's good to drive defensively, to be aware of other road users and to give yourself plenty of space. When I learnt to drive, I was actually taught to keep a bubble around the car and to use the full width of the road wherever possible. So if the road was empty, I wouldn't be driving along the edge past all the junctions. I'd move out slightly into the centre of the road and actually use that space. If there's a series of bends coming up, I would make sure that I fully use the road so I've got the best opportunity of maintaining full control of my car through those bends. But when a driver is overly cautious, they tend to make bad decisions, and you've always got to suspect that maybe they've been drinking, maybe they're on drugs, or there's some other impairment going on that's affecting their ability to drive. They're the typical driver that sort of decides to go at a junction and then changes their mind and then they go, and they're just a complete danger to themselves and every other road user out there. So drivers who fail to give way. Now, there's common courtesy on the road. You can actually improve the flow of traffic in your local area sometimes by just holding back a little bit and allowing a car to come through. I've often been sat in traffic and the jam has been caused just because two drivers just didn't anticipate the conditions ahead and they didn't want to give way, and they both tried to push through and the road's just not been wide enough and everything has just come to a crashing halt. So sometimes just holding back a little bit and allowing another car through can actually in the long term allow you to make swifter progress through your town. What about when you're driving along and a white van man or a taxi or some other commercial vehicle comes along and just parks in the middle of the road across the pavement in your way in a zone where they're not permitted to park? Their thinking is they're only going to be there briefly and it doesn't really matter, but that sort of mentality adds up and adds to the congestion of a town or a city and is a big frustration for other motorists. So my solution to that is just don't deliver anything, and if you're a taxi driver, don't pick anything up when I'm on the road, and you won't be clogging up my road. So I understand you've got a job to do, but if you could just do that when I'm not on the road, I'd be a lot happier. That's not very reasonable really, is it? So you're in a car park or parking lot, and there's a one-way system that's been clearly defined with arrows. The lanes tend to be quite narrow, and they don't usually permit two cars to pass easily. It's usually very, very tight. How often do you get some idiot going the wrong way round, causing a jam because they're trying to get through a gap that's just not there? So failing to read road signs, markings and direction, and feeling that you're a special exception just adds to the frustration of other road users like myself. Do you have members of the Centre Lane Owners Club? So here in the UK, you've got to keep as far left as you can and move out on a road if you're overtaking. There's no such thing as a fast lane, they're just overtaking lanes. So as soon as you've overtaken, the idea is that you move back in. But members of CLOC, the Centre Lane Owners Club, just blat along the middle of the road, and if other drivers observe the convention of the law of the road, it's restricted that road down to 2 lanes because everyone's got to move out to get round them. So don't be a centre lane hogger, it'll just annoy everyone else. So then you've got members of the 40-mile-an-hour club. So on a de-restricted road where you can drive at the national speed limit, they drive along at 40 because they feel safe at 40. That's their speed. That gives them good economy, and because they're maybe an older driver, they're not able to react as quickly. So 40 is plenty in their book. But then they come into a populated zone where the speed limit drops down to 30. They can suddenly drive at 10 miles an hour above the limit. Their abilities have suddenly escalated, and they can now exceed the posted speed limit by 10 miles an hour and continue to drive at 40 miles an hour. So there's a very obvious problem there. If they're not a great driver, why are they speeding in an area where it's more likely that they're going to come into contact with other people, other motorists, and there are a lot more hazards and things? So lastly, it's just courtesy on the roads. You've paused, you've flashed a car through, you've allowed it to get through a gap, and they've just completely ignored you and blatted through. So that's just really annoying. It's bad manners. You should always acknowledge another driver's kindness, even if it's only just by raising a finger or a thumb or giving them a palm or a wave or something, just to indicate that you're grateful that they've done that. What's your preferred method of thanking other drivers? And do you think the way you thank other drivers says something about your personality and what type of person you are? Let me know in the comments what you think about that. I think that might even be a subject for another video, so let me know in the comments and give me a bit of material to feed from. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We've got lots of other videos coming up on annoyances of driving, improving our driving habits, keeping our motoring costs down and getting the best performance from our car. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. We'd love you to stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.